Elementary. Anybody expert in UX UI here? It's okay, I'm not asking any questions. You know about UX UI. You are. What do you do?
I'm a third year student from the UX specialization class.
Okay. So before we go ahead, I think I did not introduce myself. My name is Vishu Agarwal. I'm a corporate trainer from last 15 years. I've consulted and given corporate training to different companies across the globe, whether it's federal agencies or any agency, basically. So I hold certifications by Adobe as a Adobe certified instructor in the Adobe Creative Cloud, which includes all the applications of Adobe. I'm an instructor by Adobe from 15 years now. Also an Apple certified trainer by Apple for Final Cut Pro, video editing application. I've been a certified trainer for Adobe XD for Adobe India, and I hold multiple certifications in gaming as well by Unity, Unreal Engine as a certified instructor and author. Plus, I do a bit of digital marketing also. So I've been a certified instructor by CDL, which is also known as IIT Council, basically, for the certification. And I've been with most of the companies around the globe, training them, upskilling them, and talking about new technologies for the same. I'm also an author of After Effects. That's one of my books, basically, for fact publishing. So I do a lot of motion graphics as well, for UX UI as well, and for videos and for animation videos and whiteboard animations. That's a brief introduction of myself. I think you are already aware about the data what we have. Right? So this is not a kind of expert workshop that we go out to assume and you become something different in the UX skills, but kind of a beginner level we'll talk about. Right? And we'll talk about what is UX. If you don't know, you must be reading this word a lot nowadays in the industry. If you have been a graphic designer, especially a web designer, visual designer, you will get a lot of jobs now as UX UI designers instead of a graphic designing job. Am I audible at the back also? This year? Okay, thank you. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the importance of user-centric design. How do you take care of user-centric design? Talking about the UX Technocon model and the mental model in the user research. Remember about heuristic analysis? What are they? And what are the 10 principles given by Jacob Linson? Talk about the visual design principles and then a big overview of Figma. Now, Figma is a big tool in the industry and kind of has a capture market of 70% in the UI industry, especially when Adobe discarded Adobe XD, right, in 2022. So Adobe also tried purchasing Figma. It never happened because of European Union Council. But Figma is a primary tool for UX UI design. And that's where you will need the laptop copy to access it, and also you need the internet for that.
UX UI represents user interface and user experience and is also used for web design.
Okay. But is that UX only applied for designing IT softwares or skills? No. Then where else you can apply it?
For every little thing we use.
For every little thing you use, right? So UX can be applied to anything. So currently you are sitting on a chair. It has certain user experience. Right? You are wearing a shirt and trouser top. It has a user experience to it. You generally go to a good brand and buy a shirt, pant, whatever you buy. There's a difference what you get in the local market. Keeping aside the price factor, if you keep aside, you will find that generally a brand will provide you a better fit, finish, and a comfort compared to what you may get in the local market. Why? Because they focus on results. I'm a fan of coffee, so I like to have a lot of coffee. And when we go to Starbucks, coffee every day, there's a do you pay so much for coffee at Starbucks? Experience. And where that experience starts, especially about Starbucks, does the experience of the Starbucks starts when you go in the Starbucks? Yes. Or before that?
Before. That's a feeling. There's a certain feeling. Very good. Before we go.
So if you notice, whenever you find a Starbucks, there will be a good parking space available there. A good place, and you doesn't have a good parking space available. To be at a particular location, right? It has not been open in just in the corner of it. Because they want to give you the experience. They know what is their target audience is, and they want to deliver the experience. And that is what UX is, thinking a little bit beyond what you can do. So when I ask people what is UX, there will be different terms for it. There is no perfect definition for UX you have. People call it UX as umbrella term because it takes care of multiple disciplines. It is not sort of one job role you have, then you become a UX UI designer. Right? Then if you go to LinkedIn, you will not say we have a UX UI designer. Right? But it is not a one discipline, it has multiple jobs in it. And still, a lot of companies don't understand that. Sometimes when I look at the job posting, I laugh at it. Because either the hiring manager does not know about it, or the HR is not aware about it. And that's not what UX is. Right? There are multiple disciplines in it. And if you go to Google, if you go to Apple, you will hear people saying that I am an interaction designer, I am a UX researcher, I am an information architecture designer, I am a UX content writer. So, the term of UX is an industry in itself. It is just not a single job role which you have, which is done by a single person. Of course, as a startup, a small company, you might be responsible for doing multiple things. There's video design, information architecture, interaction design, usability, user research, and content strategy. And there will be a lot more. We say UX is of a movement because it helps you design innovative solutions for the world. UX is a process also because in UX you follow either UCD, design thinking, double diamond. There will be different frameworks you can follow in UX to carry it out. And that's why I say it's a process. It is a job role also. It's a discipline and a philosophy. It's a combination of techniques you have. When UX was created primarily, in which company? Apple?
IBM? Or even earlier?
Even earlier. But majorly when UX term was came to the picture was at Apple. Right, and Apple still focuses on it. And who termed this concept of Don Norman, when he was at Apple, he coined this term. I don't say he invented this because it's not an invention, I would say he coined this term user experience. Why he thought of user experience? Because at that time the computers were massive. You can't basically use it in your household. You can't carry it in your car. You can't carry it with yourself. And that was the vision of Don Norman. And of course, this is right? We want to make this technology accessible. Someone mentioned about IBM. IBM was a leader in creating computers, but it was massive. And that's what Apple changed. That's what Steve Jobs basically brought. You get the Macintosh 2, which was brought by Steve Jobs. What was unique in that? Anybody know about it? Macintosh, when Apple brought Macintosh in the industry, what did it brought? Designing. But what it really changed in the experience?
It was more visual.
But how it became a personal computer? It was small. Okay. it had a graphical user interface. That was the first computer to properly induce a graphical interface to it. Otherwise, people were writing command line. All of you know what you might be knowing about command line. And one more thing Apple did at the same time when they created a GUI for it. What was that? Mouse. Right. So they understood that how we can bridge the gap they want to use it. Right? And Apple did one more thing. If you study more deep into Macintosh, in your laptop you have arrows up and down, right and left, to arrows. They removed it. Why they removed it? To force people use the mouse. And Apple has been a leader in it. I give a lot of Apple examples because they have been doing a lot of great things. Sometimes forcing the user for good, I would say. Of course, in terms of business also, I would say, but also forcing the user for good. Right. And what Apple did in 2007? iPhone. All of you know iPhone today? What Apple did different in iPhone? Or what Steve Jobs thought about in iPhone?
Security card. No keycard and
No keypad, but I had Nokia phone that time, which had any keyboard. There's no keys to it. I had
If you're using apps on phones,
yes. Yes. Nokia was doing that. Apps.
music was also slow. Like an iPod.
It simply focused on one thing, that we don't need any stylus. Touchscreen was there before Apple brought iPhone into industry. The major thing Apple did as a breakthrough is so what we say is the product has to be UX is about how a person or a user feels about interacting with using a particular product or a service. It can be applied to the service industry as well or to a particular product. And that product could be think about a product. Right? It could be a good, it could be a service, it could be a particular feature which is particular app has. For example, for a credit card. All of you have credit card in your pocket probably. Has it evolved over the years? How?
Now tapping.
Yes. You can do now without tapping also. So earlier we used to swipe it, then this goes into it for security purpose. Then the tapping is there, you can do 5,000 transactions. So you might tap on the credit card. Now you can store your credit card in your phone. If you have the supported device, I would say, then you can store your credit card in your phone. Which you can tap your phone to use your credit card. If you have the NFC, you can do it. So one thing if you notice in UX, especially if you want to change the technology, you should be aware of technology. You can see what I am talking about right now is that if you want to be a good UX person, you should understand deeply about technology. What is new and what can be built. It could be against pattern. Why do you buy this? If I give you two options right now, I have a local chips which might taste better, but I have a base. Pricing is same. Which one will you pick? Why?
Experience and the quality of your
You don't know Lays is good now, but if you see this package, you will buy these. Just not the color, the packaging and the protection and presentation. The look and feel of it. It brings trust to you. I can talk about one experience which I had with such a product. Once I was traveling from early morning from the airport from Bangalore to Delhi. Right? So I go for trains in Bangalore and then come back to Delhi in the early morning. I wanted to get a juice. It is just not very old, this is 4 years back. So then if you think about juice, what comes to your mind? Tropicana real juice. So I went to the counter and I wanted to buy some kind of a Tropicana real juice. But I saw some different product altogether. in the display. It looked very premium. I felt it must be expensive than propaganda. I never experienced that product before in the place. I never saw that also. But by looking at the packaging of it, I felt it should be good and maybe expensive than what I want to buy. But the pricing was almost same. So I brought it. And all of you know that brand now. Paperboard. I saw Paperboard that time for the first time and I thought that it's an international brand. But it is an Indian brand. But because of its packaging, it made me buy that. So of course, visual design is an important role. If something looks good, people think it will work better. Right? If something looks good, people think it will work better. Because of its visual appearance. So, your website has been changing from many years. One of the examples, let's say if you go to any e-commerce website today and you make a transaction from your credit card. So you go to Flipkart, you go to Amazon, you enter your credit card details, you write your CVV, you click on make payment. What happens next?
It takes you to
Payment
Redirects to what?
Payment
gateway. And when you get a payment gateway, what you need to do?
open your app.
Enter the OTP. Correct? All of you enter the OTP. Mostly you will enter the OTP because you can't do transaction without OTP. Right? Has it changed over the years? It has. In a very small. Means not the OTP itself, but the experience in the mobile has changed. If you go before 2018, you used to always enter the OTP manually. Now, it gets automatically filled. Correct? Yes. It happens in the web also now. Like for example, what Apple has done is, it has extended the feature to Apple also. If you own if you have the iPhone with you can get a message on your phone, you can get a message on your laptop also, you can automatically fill that. Same thing has come into Windows also. Right? If you use an Outlook, if you use, and if you're using a browser, normal browser, then let's say you get a OTP on your email, then you can fill that there. Apple has also brought this. From Apple Mail, if you get a OTP on your email, it will automatically fill that OTP for you.
So Android also is happening.
Android, yeah, of course Android is there.
It
was brought by Google only. Around 18, Google was the one to open its API to automatically fill the OTP. Now you talk about the experience before that, you close the app, you look at the message, you fill the OTP or you try to read from the OTP. So you basically kind of wasted 10 seconds, 5 seconds for it. Now, not even 1 second. You tap on it and so what I'm trying to say is someone has thought about that pain of the user. Right? Someone thought that, oh, we can streamline this process. And we can make it as a feature. Now, all of this is a very common thing. But somebody has thought about that innovation, small innovation, which can help both you as a user and business also. How it is helping the business?
Reducing friction from that.
Quick transaction. So, what is the benefit of that quick transaction? Ease of doing. Ease of, but for the company, this is ease of doing for you as a user. But what is the benefit of the company is coming?
More people
Saves them customers.
More
Customers within the day. Saves time.
Early checkout.
Because those 10 seconds.
Early checkout. Early checkout.
Yes, good.
More transactions.
More chances that the customer will not cancel the order.
Yes, very good. So, see, when you used to go back to the this is very unlikely, maybe the percentage might be 1 or 2% also, but when you go back to the message and you say, oh, I'm making a 10,000 rupees transaction, you may give it a second thought.
You didn't get a chance to rethink actually.
Yeah, you don't get a chance to rethink. And that is what is helping the business also. So you think about when you're designing UX, how you can help the user and and the business. Because you just think about the user, you miss out on the business. Probably what Apple can give you today, Apple is made ahead maybe till 2030. They already have a product for it in their research labs. But they're not giving it today right away. Because if they give you all the features today itself, what they will say in the future. Right? So, we need to think about both user and the experience. So, to go to Wikipedia, that's a normal definition of user experience. User experience has been there for very long, but now the user experience focuses on also the emotions, beliefs, and preferences of the users. Right? All of us know today Flipkart, big company owned by Walmart. When did Flipkart started e-commerce? This year.
2006, so.
2006 it started as books basically, and then it came to e-commerce in 2008. But why Flipkart was?
You can actually go and read articles about UX, known as nmgroup.com. It also offers you certification, which is very expensive though, right? But you can go to this website known as NM Group, and they have a lot of research-based articles on it. So they don't publish something that they randomly do it, right? And they were the companies who basically brought user experience. So Don Norman says, user experience encompasses all the aspects of end user interaction with the company, its service and its product. Nowadays, we just think that user experience is using an app or a website. No. Don Norman from starting says it is the complete experience which a user gets with a particular company from before they start, during the stage, and once the journey ends for the user. So it's a complete experience. For example, Starbucks, I told you, it's the experience starts from the place it is located at. You can find it on Google, right? So that's where the experience starts. Then you go to the store. Of course, you have a nice ambience and everything, and then you exit the store. So it's a complete experience you have there. Starbucks also has one strategy. Please go ahead.
So when you were talking about Flipkart, one of the things you realize is Amazon has a horrible UI UX experience, and they intentionally do it. Like whenever they intentionally make the UI UX bad. So in quite contrast, why do they do it?
So I think it like this. First of all, look and feel is not everything. Personally, I tell you, this is my personal choice. I will not say for all of you. I love to use Amazon more compared to Flipkart. Right? Because they are more focused on their service and the products they offer. Right? If you look at, personally, if I look at, it's not very modern. If you look at Amazon app, it's not very modern if you compare with Flipkart, Myntra kind of applications nowadays. It doesn't look so modern. But now people have got used to it. Correct? If they change it in a big way, if they change the UI, what will happen? People will not accept it. Or people will start getting confused. I'm not saying that they can't improve it. They can improve it over the time. But yes, Amazon has a very bad user experience in terms of the UI, which I also feel as an advanced user. For some of the things you need to struggle to find it out, right? But there is a vast variety of products they have, and it's a very big company now. Like Flipkart operates only in India, but the same Amazon operates across the globe, right? And the UI, if you look at US, if you look at India, if you go to any other country, it's the same. So changing its UI is not an easy job for Amazon, and it works, yes.
That argument doesn't stand because if you look at other companies that have not opted for change before, like Koda, but even Google now, he did not offer change, and ChatGPT came in the entire business that Tryst right now. So claiming that a company should not go to change because the users are very used to the existing interface is, doesn't fit right.
Yes. So I completely agree on that part to you, but I see, like I said, like me in a field of UX UI design, right, and using Amazon as a company, right, I need to use them. So currently I don't have any alternative, but yes, in the future some alternative comes which I can trust as a service, I might switch from Amazon, right? I might switch on Amazon. So I can't completely answer this question because of course they might have their own design philosophy in the background. There could be a lot of constraints they might have in the background to talk about. But I tell you one company example here, which is Apple itself. All of us know Apple. And I'm an Apple certified trainer for the last 10 years now. Apple had a product known as FCP7, known as Final Cut Pro 7 into it, right? Final Cut Pro 7. It is a video editing application. If you don't know, it was simple a video editing application. You can do video editing in it. And almost every media house of India and outside India had Final Cut Pro with them. Almost every company, even your lot of Hollywood, Bollywood movies are edited on Final Cut Pro. It was such a popular and such a good software. Even myself, I used to use it at one point of time. Now, what was the issue in that software was, it was 32-bit. So those who are engineers will understand what is 32-bit is. If you don't understand, the 32-bit software can only use 4 GB of RAM in your system. And there was 4K, full HD was coming in 2010 and 11. HD was getting very popular. So Apple has to rewrite the software to make it 64-bit. Right? Apple did that. But the market of Apple dropped to only had a capture of 10 to 15% after they created a new software. Why? Because they created a very beautiful app, very nice app. But the interface was completely changed. Completely changed. I will come back to the Amazon example also, but it was completely changed. And do you think people working in the media will have time to learn it? Nobody has time to learn it. That's where Adobe did something. Adobe changed Premiere Pro and copied the shortcuts of Final Cut Pro 7. Said, if you know Final Cut Pro, you know Premiere Pro, because the interface was already same. Interface was already same, and people switched it. Apple kind of a market lost its market because of this software. I still have it on my system. It's good to use, I would say. If you are a newbie, then you can use it. I think you'll not be able to see it. Let me just stop the screen here. This is the software I'm talking about. It might be taking time to open it here. As on the Final Cut Pro, this is the latest software you have here. Not be able to see it's little dark interface, but it was a complete change. Person like me, who is a certified user of Final Cut Pro, has to relearn this software completely from scratch. Completely from scratch. So, Apple lost its market. It is never able to regain that market which it had for this particular software previously. And they were probably okay with that. They were okay with it. Now, coming to the Amazon example, of course, they can do some small changes. I give some bad examples of Amazon in my training when I talk about it. For example, in iOS, if you open Amazon app, it will be very difficult for you to find Amazon Pay and Mini TV. Right? In Android, you will still be able to see a flip animation in the middle icon. If you open your Amazon app right now, tell me what that middle icon does in Amazon. Without clicking on it. What that middle icon in your Amazon app will do. How many of you have actually used that middle icon in the Amazon app, which is one of the most important icons actually? Never? Right? Right? You may have never used it probably. I tell you the problem here. It does not have a label at the bottom. It does not tell you what it is. Right? It's one of the laws of UX that you need to show people affordance and signifiers to do it. That icon does not make any sense to me personally. That is layer icon which is there. I don't understand what it does. Unless until you click on it, it will show you that you can use Amazon Pay and Mini TV on it. Right? And some of the things are done intentionally in our application. If you, for example, people talk about it's very hard to contact customer care on Amazon app. Why? They have done it intentionally. They will tell you to first help yourself, then reach the customer care. Most of the companies do this in terms of the help because they want to reduce the load there. long IVR calls of any banking, if you look at it. They are managing the traffic actually. They are making it intentionally a little bit longer so that the end waiting time reduces. Please go ahead.
And maybe it's just my experience, but also on mobile, the Amazon app makes it quite difficult to log out once you log in.
Correct.
It's not there.
It's on a dark pattern of the UI. And on a dark pattern which is done intentionally by companies to stop you from looking at that particular option. For example, you buy a subscription of an application. You will spend day and night to find the cancel subscription option. Right? Why? Because they don't want you to cancel. So it will be hard for you to locate that particular option for you. That is known as intentionally a dark UI pattern. Dark UI pattern means not the black screen or dark screen, but intentionally done something by a company to deceive the user. And every company does that. Amazon need to really improve on its app as a UI, for sure. Even they can do some small changes to improve it. Right? But what I feel, because I don't know, I have not worked with Amazon as of now, so I can't really completely answer that question. But what I feel is that it still works. It does its job, what it has to do as of now. Maybe in the future, it's a different thing. For example, I already have a good option of Flipkart, owned by a Walmart. It's a very big company, bigger than Amazon in the world, if you look at it. But I still don't use it. It has a better UI, no doubt. But somehow, for me, credibility is more important than the UI and the service credibility, which Amazon gives me. This is I'm talking as my user. Now, you might have a different scenario. You may say, okay, I like Flipkart more because of its service also and because of its UI also. That's a different thing. What I do is, sometimes when I want to compare products, I go to Flipkart first, right? Because it's a better UI, it has better filtrations to it, and then probably order the same product from Amazon. Right? This is what people do. Of course, Amazon needs to improve. They can even do small changes, not a dramatic change. They can do small changes. Even one more company failed in this change, Microsoft. How many of you use Microsoft Windows 8? 8? Use? Nahi ki? Do you think Windows 8 was great? Why? But what was the major change Microsoft brought in Windows 8? Yes. They basically kind of copied Apple like this. If you remember, they used to get, when you launch a launch screen, if you go to the startup button, your screen is filled with apps there. People were not able to use it comfortably. They have to go back. Right? They have to go back over here. So that doesn't mean that, of course, they have a bigger team of designers, but the companies fail and they need to listen to the users ultimately. Otherwise, they will be out of market. Apple also failed in multiple things. One of them was this MacBook. Between 2016 to 2022, Apple had a lot of lawsuits, a lot of replacements they need to do because of two things. One was the keyboard, right? They brought a new mechanism in the keyboard to make it more thinner. But what was the primary complaint of the user was? वो feel नहीं आ रही. You don't get that feel of typing. Butterfly, correct. Those who know about butterfly. So first of all, when you use that keyboard, you don't get a feel of typing on it. Secondly, mechanism of butterfly had even a small dust gets into it, your keyboard is spoiled. And Apple had a lawsuit for it. And ultimately, they have switched back to Caesar board, the mechanism which is there. There's one more thing which is removed from this laptop. That is touch bar. Why? Why Apple removed touch bar? It was a good thing, right? It made the Mac look better. So those who don't know touch bar, you have F1 to F10 keys in your keyboard. They removed it with a digital display, small digital display. But why Apple removed it in 2024 now, or 2021 actually? Why? It was difficult to use actually. So imagine if you look at your keyboard, escape is the key which you use most of the time. if you use a laptop, and that goes touch. So sometimes people are pressing and they're not able to get that feel, whether I'm actually pressing the key or not. Now imagine your home, all of you, like currently if you look at this lecture room also, if I put instead of this switch a digital display to control it, it is nice, no? It will look nice. If you're home, if I change all these switches to a nice touch play display of free of cost, let's say, you will be happy that you can have a touch screen. But after 1 month, 2 months, no, what will happen? You not only get bored of it, it will be a big trouble for you. Even though you had for free of cost, why? Why it will be a trouble for you? Think. See, for using the touch, you need to use your conscious mind. You have to use your conscious mind. On your phone, all of you must be using smartphone nowadays, right? When I was in college, we had that Nokia phone. I've seen my friend typing like this without looking at it. Some of you might have done that. Can you do that with your iPhone now? Can you do that with your Android phone? No. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you simply put the switch like this. Can you do that with the touch screen? No. It looks very fantastic to look at something, but practically in our day-to-day life, it can make the user life difficult to be there, right? So that's why the experience has to be designed in keeping the mental model of the users. Now, let me just quickly move ahead. Let's look at some good and bad examples here. Talking about some real life example. This is a signboard of a traffic light of China. Now, can you use it? You as a tourist will understand this. No. Right? Certain people can understand it, but it is not helping the vast majority of people out there in industry. Those you must have used it in your cars older times, right? After some time you get used to it, I would say, but it is difficult to operate those small buttons there and the screen also. If you talk about car tech nowadays, go to XUV 700 and all kind of these cars, Kia and all, they have big displays there, right? But some of the things they can't replace with digital screen. Like imagine in a car you have volume button which is only a display. There is no physical button. There is no physical button to go next and previous to a music. You might have on the steering nowadays. Why that button is important? Because when you're driving your car, you can still control the volume of it. If it's a touch, let's say if it's a touch screen only, you will have to look at it. So it cannot be replaced. That's how human psychologically works basically. If you look at this banana, it's very nice, nicely packed. To a certain extent, it can be a pain to the user. To a certain extent, I would say. But it's a more pain for the store and the business. Because of the storage space, a lot of material getting wasted there. In graphic designing, if you look at this board, this is how it looks. So this is how it looks. Now, can you understand it? You will not have time to read this also. So a simple design could fix it or make it easy to understand, I would say, when you want to look at it. There are a lot of designs around you which you use on a day-to-day basis, which makes your life easier or difficult while using it. One of the basic example which we have in the UX is the door example. I have it in the PPT ahead also. Have you ever used a door with push and pull? Yes, written by Don Norman. Also known as Don now. Norman door. Do you think it's your mistake? It very clearly says push or pull. But how many of you done a mistake using it? Almost everyone, even if you have used that door previously. Why? Those who have read the book. Why? What is that signifier? No. Hinge, you don't look at the hinge always.
You're going out, you want to push.
Handle is the culprit there. Handle is the culprit in the door. Right? Because if you can only pull, there should be a handle. If you can push, you don't need a handle for it. I can just simply remove the handle and make a plate. Now there's a lot of companies or a lot of architecture is using only a plate. If you can only push a door, there will be no pull handle there. And people will never do a mistake even if you don't write push or pull. Known as affordance and signifier. I have it ahead in the presentation, talk about it. So what is the difference between user interface and user experience now? They are not different first of all, but there is a difference between them. Like for example, one of you mentioned about if you talk about Flipkart, it's a good UI definitely, right? But for me, it could be a bad experience with Flipkart compared to Amazon, though Amazon does not have a good UI to it, I would say. So that's where the difference comes in. And as a job also is a difference. I explain UX UI like this. So you have to eat cornflakes, right? That is your content you want to consume. What is the interface? Is the spoon you use to consume it. And how you package it together, that content and the interface together, it becomes a user experience here. That's what becomes user experience, right? So UI is the way people consume the content. And what is a UI? It is also a digital screen. Remember, your phone design is also an UI. It's also an interface. You have an iPhone in your pocket right now, or whatever Android phone, whatever phone you have. If you look at all the phones, they are rounded in the edges. Correct? Why? Easy to hold on your wrist. Right? Easy to hold in your hand. Compared to just, if you make a hard edge, it will hurt your palm over here. So interface is just not the UI of the software, it is also the physical form of the product which is out there. I will not go in much difference here, but there are different job roles. When you go as a UX designer, you deal with different things, and a UI designer deals with different things here. So as a UI person, you are majorly interested in visual design, layout, branding, user controls, typography, input and output devices, creating mockups and prototypes. As a user experience designer, you're doing research, you're trying to understand the user, task flows, user satisfaction, creating personas, empathy maps, customer journey maps, prototyping, etc. However, in some companies, these roles are merged together. They expect you to do everything, jack of everything kind of thing, right? So it could be a merged role, and the UX role never ends. Means if you have done your part, you will closely work with the UI designer. And a lot of things in UI design depend from the user experience. For example, what colors to use may come from UX as a psychology of colors. What color should you use, right? If you look at all the big brands of food chain, what colors they use? Red, yellow, orange. Mostly red, yellow, orange. Why? Because of the psychology. For example, red is for what? Hot, right? Your food will be hot basically because it's related to food directly. Spicy, hot. If you're about orange or yellow, it's more kind of hunger and youthfulness it basically represents there. It's because of the psychology of the colors these brands are using that particular color. If you look at Burger King, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, any food, especially these fast food chain, if you look at it, they use mostly red, yellow, except few of them, right, depending on their context. For example, Subway, if you look at Subway also, it uses green and yellow to be there. Domino's also uses it. Look at the red dot there. Yeah, background is blue for them to build trust. So blue generally represents trust. If you look at most of the financial companies like KPMG, Deloitte and all, this generally had kind of a blue color in them, right? To kind of build trust. You know about McKinsey also. They deal with consulting of finance and everything, right? So they have blue in it to be there. So UX talks about how something works versus UI talks about how something looks over here. So it is about functionality and it is about the look and feel you have in the UI over here. So design is not just what it looks like, remember, or feels like. Design is how it works. This is what Steve Jobs used to say always. Design needs to show you how it works. And you need to focus on that. Now, before we do some kind of an activity, I want to basically explain you how UX is different in the software life cycle, right? Or what is a different thing, what you do in UX as a process when you go to a company or when you want to do a UX. So see, generally creating a good UX requires some kind of a framework. How many of you have heard about design thinking? Most of you, right? How many stages it has, design thinking? 5, mostly 5. So that's one of the frameworks of UX. If you look at design thinking, is more about innovation, finding solution to any problem. If you want to summarize and if you want to understand design thinking in a very summarized way, you can read one book known as Sprint, How to Solve Big Problem in 5 Days. Sprint. Sprint. It's written by Google X Ventures basically. It's one of the most popular books in the world if you want to understand in a very short way what is UX is and what is design thinking is and what activities you can do. It is basically divided into 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Has 5 chapters to it. Very interesting book to read if you like reading about something. Okay, so traditionally a software is made like this. If I ask you, I need a website, I need an app, what will you do typically? Or let's say I say you are a carpenter, I need a chair, right? I need a table. Maybe you are an interior designer. I say you want do my interior of my home, right? Interior is a little bit different though, I would say. Then let's say if I ask you create a software for me, maybe create a car for me, right? But I'm the business owner, remember. I will not be using that product. So what typically happens is you will ask me, hey Vishu, what you like, what colors do you think, what is your target audience is, right? You will get all the details with me, and what you do next step is then what do you do in the next step? Anybody designer here? Most of you. Okay. Okay. What else? Do you really do prototyping? Okay. Before that also, how will you create the user flow? So how will you understand the user journey? So before UX, you were doing that? Yeah, so see, actually what happens typically is that you get a requirement from me, then you will apply some assumptions and start designing it. You will open Photoshop, Figma, right? You will take pen and paper, start designing wireframe and start designing something. This is what typically happens. Nobody, after you have designed something, you will not be going to my website. Aapne design kar di, you are gone now, right? So will you come to my website and buy a product? Probably not. Will I go on my website and buy the product? नहीं. मैंने कोई कार बनाई, मैं अपनी कार शायद कभी यूज ना करूँ, right? So who will be the using it? My customer, the end user, and we never involved him or her in that process. This is what user-centric design means. This is what happens from a business. A requirement comes in a company, it goes to a designer, Designer passes on to an engineer who will develop it. Engineer will pass on to the user and they are using it. Requirement came from a different person altogether who is never going to use the product. People who even designed it in between is never going to use it. Ultimately, the sufferer is user. And this anybody who works over here in already in an MNC company, बहुत सारे internal portal होते हैं, HR leave portal. How many of you struggle with it? Lot of portals. ERP portal होगा, accounting का portal होगा, right? Lot of portals are there in a company. All of you struggle as an employee. Why? This is what has typically happened. Nobody thought about it. They want to create a portal. User तो use कर ही लेंगे कैसे ना कैसे. Nobody thought about your pain basically there. And this is a typical known as waterfall method of designing something. In UCD, and this is what we say, this is how the information is getting filtered out. This is what probably even the stakeholder wanted or the user wanted. As the information passes, this is what gets designed. Even sometimes the stakeholder requirement is not met because there is no proper flow of information happening. It's one of the steps in, of course, in UI or UX, which is information architecture, but there are a lot of things because you have never thought about the actual user, what the user actually wants, right? We have never understood the pain of the user. What is that user is looking for? You need to talk to the user, right? You need to talk to the user. What we say is build empathy or understand the user by interviewing them, understanding them, and then design something. Of course, you can't make everyone happy, right? For example, if you talk about Apple, one of the biggest companies, Microsoft, Oracle, is everybody happy with them? No, right? If I start a debate here of Android versus iOS, there will be a fight in this room, right? There will be a fight in this room. Some of you love Android and some of you love iOS. And it's not to debate actually, that's okay. Every user is different and has different requirements for it. And Apple also understands that we can't make everyone happy. We can't make everybody use our product. But we can at least design for the vast variety of users. And you need to think about them. What is the trend going? So UCD simply talks about this as a process. Now there are different structures to it, to be frank, right? But it's more kind of a cycle. You do a user research. It says understand the user. Like some of you said, in design thinking, you have empathy to understand. You do a research. You try to talk about the user, define it. And one more thing in the research you do. A lot of people do one mistake in research. What is that? When you talk to the user, how will you talk to the user now? That's important, right? Yeah, I can have open-ended questions, or for example, if I ask all of you, let's say, what would you like to change in Uber? आपको क्या फीचर चाहिए Uber के अंदर? Tell me. Think whatever, think about it.
We cannot call them.
You can call them. Let's say I ask you, all of you, what functionalities and what do you need next in Uber? What will be, like, generally, tell us a user.
An example is that you want to choose an electric vehicle.
Okay.
Option,
Okay. Okay. What else? Think. Maybe Ola also. Uber, Ola, both. You must have faced some problem here.
There should be no option for the driver to cancel the ride.
Okay. Good. Fine.
There could be an option for us to choose the path we want to take because there's no option for that. There's only one way to go.
ठीक है. Okay. Self-drive. Good. Okay. Nice. Good one. But I tell you the problem here. The question which I asked you is wrong. Question I asked you is wrong. What I'm asking you is, tell me the features you need. Right? I'm not trying to understand you. And you have a limited knowledge as a user. Ford created cars. Please go ahead.
is shown across different apps that a certain insight of their use, like Spotify,
Okay.
or Google Maps,
Yes.
an insight for the user.
Correct. So that's a feature which is good, which you're giving me, right? It can help me. Like someone told me that we don't give option to cancel it. It could be a pain for the user, right? Now, yes. So I need to kind of understand the problem more deeply, right? Sometimes what it looks on the surface is a solution for something. For example, he asked me that there should not be an option to cancel the ride for the driver. I can build it very easily in Uber app that he will never get to see a button to cancel it. Done. But that's not how UX works. That user can ask anything from you. If you go to Pizza Hut will say, okay, what do you want? You will say, give me in 50 rupees this many toppings. Pizza Hut cannot do that for you, right? So you need to understand that you need to reframe the problem statement sometimes. Problem is not what it looks like sometimes on the face. And you don't have to ask people, what do you need? Because user will never be able to tell you what is needed. For example, if you go back in 2006, and if I ask you what do you need in a phone, what would be your answer? Will you say me, iPhone I need? If I go to 90s, and if I ask you, instead of a bull cart, or the whatever house cart, whatever you had before, instead of a cycle, what do you need? Will you ever say you need a car? Faster horses. This is what people used to actually say. That I want to reach to a particular destination from A to B faster. Okay, let's add more horses. Nobody might have thought about the motor. That's the invention you need to do. Think about it. Which can help both the user and the business. So using that research is a little bit technical aspect to it. That you need to understand what is the real problem user has. And how you do that? One is doing interview with the user. You may ask some questions like open-ended, some of you mentioned, you may ask some open-ended questions. What else? Observe the user using your product or a service. You know, most of the app, if you open them, they will say we will collect some information to enhance our service, and you generally allow them. This is what they are doing with the data analytics in the background, right? Or when Apple gave this Apple Watch, when they brought the first Apple Watch, before bringing to the market, what they did, they gave this watch under NDA, non-disclosure document, with some of the personalities around the world who are basically into, sports, athletes and all. Even they were not sure what this product named, but Apple told them to use this product and give feedback to the Apple. So the Apple understand how this person actually can use this product and how we can enhance it to improve the usability of this particular product. So this is what Apple did in the research part of it. Then we define the problem. So now you need to understand what is the real problem statement is. For example, if the driver is cancelling the ride, why he or she is cancelling the ride, right? So why you think that the drivers were cancelling the ride? It was much more before than now it is. So why were drivers cancelling the ride?
Location that we're setting, where the place is, it can be due to the long distance and the shorter distance and the amount of money that the app is going to have.
So how did Uber, cancellation is still there, but it is less compared to what it was before. And Uber did something for drivers. Drivers are able to see the fare, and also they are able to see the drop location now. Right, so instead of removing that feature, what Uber did? Uber added, okay, let's let the driver see the location. If they want to go there, they will pick the location. They will take the ride. Otherwise, they will not take the ride. And if they are okay with the money, then they will go ahead, basically. Simple. So, because if they just make it a very hard rule not to cancel them, they will lose out the drivers. They know that Ola is already there, and many other players are already ready to enter the Indian market. And if the drivers are unhappy, ultimately you will be unhappy. It's their part of the business. So think about both the sides, the user and the business, and how they operate.
But sir, sometimes after reaching the destination, the fare charges increases by 20 or 30.
Yes, so that's one of the problems you have. Like for example, I use Uber a lot. I never face that issue much if I've taken the right destination to be true, because Uber shows me there could be a change like 5 or 10 rupees, but not major. This is what I have seen it, right? Now that issue happens because of technology also, sometimes because of the GPS signal, right? And that's where you need to basically contact the Uber support, which is also one of the challenges you have. It's hidden also, plus you can't talk to the person directly, right? You need to kind of do a message, follow through up, and etc. So of course they also know that they need to improve in that area, but maybe their business doesn't allow them to do it to a certain extent. So there are a lot of frameworks you have. If you go to, you have user-centric design, design thinking, lean UX, agile UX, double diamond, and 5 elements of UX. There are a lot many compared to what I'm showing you on the screen right now. There are different frameworks to carry out the UX. One of them I'm going to talk about is the user-centric design, which have these 4 stages. Design thinking, similar to design thinking. You understand the user, you specify the requirement, you design it and evaluate it. Simple. Before it goes to development. Evaluation means you're doing a usability testing on the product you created, and you may go back. If you look at these arrows, they're going in different directions. So it is not a waterfall method, it's kind of a iterative process which it talks about. And in each of them you have different activities listed here. There are different activities listed over here, right? Okay, sorry. This is design thinking. It has basically divided the specify into 2 parts, define and ideate. Otherwise it's the same. It's the same. User-centric design is for more user. This is design thinking is for majorly for innovation, thinking from a different perspective and doing a innovation in the industry. You have design thinking for that. Lean UX is used majorly for creating a MVP, minimal viable product, for startups. Then you use generally lean UX as a process where you apply a lot of assumptions to get at least a minimum viable product to test with the users and then get a feedback. So generally startups majorly use lean UX sometimes to be there, which looks something like this. There is a book also you can read. I've given the it came as a concept major in 2005 because of this book known as lean UX. You learn, you build, you measure, you again learn it. So if you want to get a minimum viable product without much efforts, then you basically look at lean UX. Yeah.
Measure means it's like
testing with the users, measuring the results, whether it's getting the right output to the user or not, and input to the business basically. Now the major thing we'll talk about is the UX honeycomb with all of you. Have you heard about this? Yes. What are the points, factors in honeycomb? Think. Anybody know? If you remember, just like that. Okay. So let me show you what is honeycomb is. Honeycomb looks something like this. The typical honeycomb model. It was given by Peter Moran. He is also one of the person who named information architecture, right, in the UX. Peter Moran created this honeycomb model over here. And generally I say it starts from usable. It's kind of honeycomb model because in the center, if you look at it, it says value. So it means if you offer the other 6, it can create a value for the customer. And in some of the points, your application or service might be higher or lesser, means bigger or lesser basically. So the first one you have is useful. The application or a service has to be useful, right? For example, if I ask you Google Maps, all of you must be using Google Map. Is it useful? Very much. How? Anybody at the back can tell me how it is useful? Think. Yeah. Yes. So it can take you from position A to B. Simple. That's the simple thing Google Map does. It can take you from position A to B. Now suppose C, D also if you want to add more stops in it. Right? But takes you from position A to B. That's usefulness of it. How useful is Zomato? Quite useful. Right? How it is useful? Think. Convenience. Convenience is one of the things which it's offering you, right? You can basically, if you think basically, you will say, okay, I will go out, waste my time, petrol also. I can get at home, right? By sitting at home, you can order something and you get that. Now, useful is one of the things. Is it usable? Is Google Map usable? Easy to use? Did I teach you how to use Google Map? Did someone taught you how to use Google Map? No. Correct? You can use it. So it's pretty usable. But we'll come to that point. But if I tell you, so there is an outway for it also. If you don't have an internet in your phone, can you use Google Map? I said I will come to that point. But imagine if you have not downloaded the offline map of Google Map. If you're going for tracking, you know that I will lose the signal, so I will pre-download it. Right? But if you're not pre-downloaded it and suddenly you lose internet connection, can you use Google Map? No. So useful is one thing, usable is another thing. And Google Map thought about it and giving an option to download the offline map to be used. They have thought about that scenario, user scenario, that how we can make our application usable even in that particular scenario. That's important. Now, the other thing you have is building credibility. Building credible, like one of you said, sometimes it's unreliable, right? Yes, but I think that's where your human intelligence comes in place sometimes, right? Especially if you go to a new place, sometimes Google Map does not know that you can, whether your car can pass that road or not, how wide the road is, right? So that's of course there. But about credibility, it is mostly uptime. You know you can rely on Google Map, right? When you will take it, when you open the app, you can use it. It's always up in time. And there's also an accuracy in it. If it shows you that you can reach this destination in 1 hour, most likely you will reach in 1 hour. In a normal traffic conditions, I'm saying. If Google Map is saying that you will reach in 1 hour, you will generally reach there in 1 time. So credibilities are built over the years. Right? Okay, one feature I want to talk about. All of you must be using WhatsApp. Correct? Tell me how many of you really use UPI on WhatsApp? Some of you doing it, but most of the audience here might not be using their UPI on WhatsApp. Why? Why is it so? Yes. It does not feel credible enough actually. That's known as credibility feature. So it could be a feature where you need to build credibility. Right? Maybe the overseer people will get comfortable and use it. It's a good option they have added as an add-on. Even WhatsApp know that's not their primary thing to do it. But they are adding that feature just to make the user think that they are doing something. Right? They are doing something. So credibility is very, very important to be established. Then we have accessibility. What does accessible mean here?
Different kinds of people who have challenges are also able to use that.
Correct. And if you don't have a challenge, is there any accessible for you?
Yes.
What?
Like Siri, you can even when you're driving, you can like just
Okay.
Siri please call.
But if you don't know English,
Language.
you can change the language. So accessible doesn't mean that person is disabled. Remember, of course, disability is one of the things which Google Map take care of. The screen reader softwares can make it use for people who are even blind, right? There are visual signals in the application which tells you that if you're deaf, then you can basically look at it and see, okay, where the traffic is and etc. Right? And if you're color blind, they have taken care of that contrast also, because a lot of people are color blind to red color, remember, but it creates a contrast with that blue and red. So even color blind people can look at that app. That is one accessibility you have in the application. Another accessibility you have, you can change the language of it, right? You can change the language in it. For example, if you look at YouTube, you watch a lot of movies with subtitles. Sometimes subtitles can be important for you. Probably you're not disabled, right? But subtitles is one of the accessible features you have there to be added. So thinking about making a product accessible. If you actually go to Starbucks, there is a feature of accessibility. They generally look at a place where you will have a ramp and stairs both to the physical space. So they look at the building also. Is the building accessible? Right? So you need to think about whether your product is accessible to everyone. So equality basically, and it's also a law. In 2016, India embedded its law for digital accessibility. In 2016, it's known as Act of 2016. In India, there is a law in US 508 compliance, right? You have a compliance law in Europe. Everywhere you have law basically. If you look at any of the government websites, you will find three things there. One, you can increase and decrease the font. You can change the contrast of it, right? And you can change the language of it. Correct. That's one of the contrast ratios, AA. But any government website in India will have these three things. Increase font. I will show you later once I have the internet. Increase the font. If you go to LIC, if you go to SBI, if you go to Pradhan Mantri Yojana, any kind of websites, you will find these three options there. Always. Generally, private don't have it because they don't come strictly into that law. But if you're building a website or an app for a government, you have to do it. Of course, that accessibility is not no use, to be frank. There are a lot of issues if you look at the government portals generally. They don't focus on that user experience, I would say. Okay, then what we have? We have desirable. For some company, desirable is more important. For some company, desirability is not very important. How does Zomato makes it desirable for you? Offers, okay. What else? Someone saying something at the back. Visuals? Yes. It's one of their marketing styles. Yes. What else? There's a recent feature which came to Zomato. I don't know how many of you saw it. Gold is little but old. Very recent feature they have added in terms of technology into Zomato. No. What else? Nobody used it. AR. AR is one of the latest features they have added into Zomato. Imagine if you can see your piece on a table, you visualize it. Right? It's not coming in all the products, but it's coming in some of the products. So that's not very necessary, but kind of desirable feature they are adding to it. You can't. There are a lot of things which has a desirability to it. For example, you see a bike going there. They can add a normal arrow also, but they show a bike. That's a desirable feature, which makes the user more engaged. Anybody use Cred here? Cred. I think incredible app also, I would say, in terms of use Cred. Those who don't know, Cred lets you manage your credit cards. I'm not doing marketing for them, but I'm one of the users of Cred. But I love the way they have engaged the user actually. The way they engage the user, right? You can make a transaction through, you can manage all your credit card first of all there. And after you spend, if you make a payment with a credit card, they will give you a nice spin. You can keep spinning and you can keep winning. Yeah, 5 times spins basically. So that's known as engagement and desirability they are building into the application, right? To be added. Now, how does Google Map adds desirability into its product? Think. Google Map. Cars, what do you say car? I'm talking about Google Map. Google Map में कहाँ कार दिखती है आपको? I'll come to that. हाँ, ठीक है. But how they are adding desirability into it? So most of you might not be knowing. Some of you know over here. Generally, if you on the Google Map, I will take the questions. When you on the Google Map and you say go from point A to B, right, from here to your home, let's say, what do you see? There's an arrow you see there. You can see the arrow. How many? Some of you know that. Some of you might not be knowing. You can change that arrow. Right? You can, if you keep holding on that arrow for a longer time, it will allow you to change it to car, something else, something else, basically. Right? You can change that icon if you want to. So it's kind of a desirability feature, I would say. Kind of adding engagement. What else it does? Very good. Yes. Have you noticed recently, if you're traveling with the Google Map, as soon as you go under the pass, the UI will change. UI will change. And when you come out, again the UI will change of the car. So there is it's kind of a more desirability feature also, plus it is also known as interaction design. In interaction design, what we say is thinking about the user physical space also. So there are 4 D's in interaction design we talk about. One of the D's is physical space of the user and thinking about the physical space. So it thinks about your physical space and changes the color. There could be a lot of other desirability features you might have into something. Then you need to be findable, right? Findable. So what is findable here? We talk about so many things. What is findable now? Sorry? Yes? Correct. What else? First of all, your business should be findable. If user has a problem, he or she will go to Google and search it. First of all, your solution should be available to them, right? And within your application, your solution should be available.
Yeah, I think should match to whatever material should be there. Like in the Amazon, it has layers instead of the payment.
Correct. For example, I tell you Amazon, I was struggling to find one time where is mini TV. What I typically do as a user is search में नहीं आता, iOS में नहीं आता. When I searched in iOS on my phone, basically as an app, I said mini TV, it did not came. It was showing something else only. Right? If I search for Amazon Pay, it never shows Amazon Pay in the search. That is findability. So whether the user is able to find the task he or she wants to do in that particular application, known as findable, and how easy it is to locate that particular thing. For example, will you order, in terms of desirability and findability also, will you order a food which does not have an image to it? Generally no. Especially the name is not familiar. If it's a pav bhaji, you will still order probably, because you know what pav bhaji looks like. If I give you a name of a Mexican dish and you don't know how it looks also, probably you will never order it. So you're looking for the visual clues also to find and relate with the information. But that doesn't mean that you always rely on the visual clue only. Like what most of the applications are doing is, when I teach Figma, most of the students do is they create a bottom navigation in the app, right? And they just put icons and they don't put a label at the bottom, what that icon means. I tell them why you have done this. They said minimalistic design. I said, okay, no problems. But it might work or may not work. Remember, if the icons are familiar to you, you will be able to use it. Like in Amazon app, you never use the center button because of findability. You're not able to understand what it does, and your brain simply ignores it. There's a proven research now that nobody reads though. We don't read, especially the younger generation, even they don't even read newspaper. So people don't have a reading habit. So of course you need to rely on visual signals with icons and graphics, but the text is important. Especially if it's a new app. If you look at Instagram, Instagram does not have label at the bottom. But the icons are very familiar and it's made for youth, if you look at it. But if you go to Facebook, if you go to WhatsApp, you will find labels at the bottom. Owned by the same company. Owned by the same company, but it has labels at the bottom. So there's nothing wrong or right here. It depends on your target audience. There's a book known as Don't Make Me Think. Right? Don't Make Me Think. If you want to read about designing, Don't Make Me. It's a very old book written by Steve. Don't Make Me Think. And this is one of the things which I've read there. He says that there's something wrong and right in design. It is whether what your user is able to understand or not. Instead of applying your assumptions. Right? Instead of applying your assumptions there. Ultimately, when you have all this, it can create a value for you. It can create a value for a product. If you look at Google Maps, it creates a value for you as a user. That's why you use it again and again. Right? Because it gives you all those things which is needed to be there. Zomato or Swiggy, you use it because it's giving you some kind of value to it. Over there. Some of the info, like I tell you one more thing which I just came to my mind in findability. Zomato did recently one more thing, making something difficult for you to find when you place an order now. Earlier, no, it's basically only showing you total now. It's not showing you the breakup of the pricing by default. If you see now, if you go and see it, it simply shows that this is your total of 500 rupees. It does not show you what is the delivery fees, what is the convenience fees of the application, what is the text there, what is the package charging. It shows you need to click on it to see it. Right? So they're making that information a little bit less findable. Because it's kind of dark pattern they are doing and designing in the Amazon app here to be done. Right? So you need to look at all these parameters to find value and create a value in a particular product. Useful, usable, desirable, findable, accessible, credible, and valuable here into it to be there. And that's an important honeycomb model you have. Now we'll go next here and talk about the next part here of the mental model, which is the most important thing. I told you the door example already. Push and pull. Right? We will take a break around, I think 11, something like that. We'll see. And this is what typically you do. Solution is simple. I already discussed this, I'm not spending time on it. Solution is simple. Because of the handle, you get confused that whether I should pull or push. It's an unconscious mind you can use it with. Now all of you in this room must have used this tool for sure. Toothpick, right? If I ask you, did anybody teach you how to use it? Did anybody teach you how to use it with the snacks or to clean your teeth or etc.? Anybody told you this? No. Then how are you able to use it? Okay. Yes. But when did you learn this? At what age?
Obviously, we know that the
Actually, not by seeing others only. I tell you, you actually learned how to use this in your childhood itself. If you look at any kid, they will put everything in their mouth. You know how to use a fork from the childhood, right? You know, your brain understands that the sharp end is something I can use. Your brain automatically understands from the past learnings you had. And because of that, you are able to use it. Of course, child also observes people using it. I'm not saying that. As a child, you observe people using it. But it's coming as a mental model to it. If I talk about WhatsApp, all of you using WhatsApp today, who taught you to use WhatsApp? No one? Anybody taught you how to use WhatsApp? No? Why? How are you able to use WhatsApp? WhatsApp was not there in your childhood. So how are you able to use WhatsApp?
I think earlier the features were less. We were able to grab that.
Correct.
But if you talk about today, people have to.
habit like we have to send and receive, we are getting.
कहाँ से आई habit? From where that habit came?
It came from SMS.
By using the laptop.
If you look at before WhatsApp, what you had? SMS. And do you think between the SMS you had and the WhatsApp you have any similarity in it? Correct? Yes, whatever basically. So, is there any difference? There's a familiarity of the way you use a normal SMS app and the WhatsApp. Nowadays, Telegram getting very popular, right? Can you use Telegram? All of us can who has used WhatsApp. Because it's similar. If they create something very innovative and people don't understand it, they will leave it. If there is a usability issue, people don't have time to learn. So they will leave it. Please go ahead.
In WhatsApp now, we have the voice messages and the normal as well as the other text, while SMS is normal text message.
Yes, agree. So they are taking the leverage of the technology which is available now to you, right? For example, you can now do video calls also on it. You can even share your screen, right? While doing a call with someone, you want to explain something on your mobile phone. There are a lot of features which has come to the WhatsApp now. But the core principle of WhatsApp was to send messages. They have always focused on that. And there's one more unique thing which I love in WhatsApp. If you look at when someone sends you a message and when you send a message, on which side they appear? When someone, let's say if I send you a message, where it will appear? Left? Open your WhatsApp, you can check it, no problems. You can open your WhatsApp, all of you must be using it. So when you send your message, it will come on the right hand side, and when someone else sends you a message, it will come on the left hand side. Why?
Sending from the right side to indicate
No.
it's coming
Okay.
from the other side.
No. Because in English you read from left to right. Will you read your message on? Very less likely you will read your own message. You read the other person's message. And your habit is to lead from left to right. If you go to Dubai kind of country, it will be opposite. If you start writing in Arabics, it will be opposite. Your message will appear on the left hand side and the other person's message will appear on the right hand side because they read from right to left. So that's a small thing which WhatsApp has taken care of and making it easy to understand, right? To be embedded or to be added into a particular application. Very small thought, very small thing. Even the send button which is there in the WhatsApp is on the right hand side because when you finish typing, you will click on the send button there to be there. Okay, so most of you might be knowing about this example. It's a very common example of toothpick I have taken. Very, very common. Those who come from the UX field might already be knowing, or from design field might be knowing this. And it's about that same thing which I'm talking about. So you know how to use it, right? Nobody taught you how to use it. Now, why these groovings are there at the back?
So you know which side is the sharp one.
Okay. Which side is the sharp one? Someone said you can use it for stand. Okay. It'll give you the grip. Okay, normal. If you look, think as a normal user. I'm not talking about the hidden vulnerability of it. We're talking about a normal user. It is for grip. Generally think it's a grip, right? As a human being, you will think it's a grip. If you ask your mother, father also, right, they will say, okay, grip ke liye hogi. It is there for gripping it, which is to a certain extent, but it also shows you that for which side you need to use actually, and which side is not usable. I have seen now recently a toothpick which you can use from both the sides. Right? In India, people are very smart, so they change the toothpick also. Let's use it from both the sides, which does not hold any sense to it. Right? Or not usable in all the senses unless you're making a pint ticket at home. Right? So
They can take 2 bites at a time. Like.
correct. So, but it might hurt your head. So this is there. But of course, it is for 2 more reasons. The one is the culture says when you use the toothpick, you should break it. Okay. It will be easy to break from this side, even with one hand. The thumb also, if you're holding with the thumb down, you can just simply break it like this. It is used, not to be reused. Getting it? People are smart. You have recently seen going very popular Coca-Cola bottles are refilled by local people nowadays. Right? So it is used basically. Even when it's there, it's used. Another use is, one of you already told, some of you actually told it already. If you're sitting in a long event, it is made of wood. So sustainability. If you're sitting in a long event like this now, from morning to evening, and you want to use a toothpick, instead of using multiple toothpicks, you can reuse the same toothpick. And also show that it's used on your table. So you can use it as a stand. So you break it from the back, and you can use that back part of it to make it a stand in the front. Right? So that you can use it again and again if you're sitting in a long event. This is what the culture says. Typically, we don't do it.
Does the chopsticks also have stand?
Correct. So it has a stand. It can basically, those groovings which you see over here, makes it easy to hold. So it does not roll here and there when you're sitting in a long event. Now, some of you did not know about it. The reason is, nobody taught you. Or you never saw someone doing this. Especially it's not a culture in India. Right? You will simply take and throw it. Right? Not a culture in India, so you have never seen it. Nobody taught you how to do this. The simple signifier was to grip it. But we never understood that this is also a part of it. When you brought a toothpick at your home, the package does not tell you that you can use it like this. So learnability has to be taught sometimes to the user. This is what I'm trying to say here. Because you can't assume that the user will always be knowing this. I tell you one application you have in iOS. Those who own an iPhone right now, you know there's a calculator app in iPhone. Right? Let's say you type whatever number you want to type in there. Now the problem in the iPhone is, let's say you do a mistake. Let's say you wanted to type, let's say for example, you want to type 10,000. You wrote by mistake 9,000. Now the problem is you need to remove that 9. Or in between you want to remove something. You have to, most of the people click on that C button, which will clear the whole number, and you will again start typing it. But like she said, there is a feature there in the calculator app. You can swipe from the other side to delete. You don't have your laptop. I would tell you one thing. Let's go. Let me connect my phone now. Let's see if I can get I'll show you a practical example of this mental model now. This is a big problem from one of the surveys you must have used in India. Just give me a second. See if I can connect. Tell me, you need to log into this website. Where is the login button located? Where it is? Top left? When I told you to look at it, where did you look at it?
Right side.
All of you looked at mostly right side? Why?
That's where most generally
That's your mental model. Right? So all of you first looked at it here, you can't find it. Unconsciously you went there when I told you to look at it. But then you will start finding and say, oh, it is there. One of the biggest problems in this IRCTC website, I tell you. If you look at most of the government portals, they are not designed this way. You go to passport also, they have a login option on the right hand side bottom. LIC also had this problem, but they have recently fixed it. If you look at their LIC new page and an old page, you will look at it. LIC had a login button on the right hand side bottom compared to this. So that's your mental model. Some of the things has to be done in a particular way, and that's why you need to learn the principles of visual design. You can't change them. Even big companies fail. Google failed in one product very badly. They tried to defeat Facebook using which product? Orkut. No, not Orkut. Orkut is fine still. But after that also they did a one more try. Google Plus. Why people did not use Google Plus? People even don't know that. Okay, some of the people don't know that. Yes?
You're forced to use it like with YouTube. If you want to comment, then you have to have a Google Plus account. So that be like a bad impression.
Also, yes. What else?
It was very different from what we used to.
Yes. See, the working of Google Plus was very, very different from what Facebook is already giving you. What Facebook is already giving you. You need to think about that. And there is no harm in copying. Steve Jobs used to say it's good to copy if it helps the user. There's nothing wrong in copying. What TikTok did, Instagram immediately copied. Immediately copied it. Yes, they copy each other. Unless until you have a patent, that's a different story. But you can copy it. It's important because otherwise the user will simply fall back. Will not use your product.
But also TikTok was banned in India.
But before it was banned also, Instagram brought videos to it. And all those features of TikTok, because they knew that the trend is now moving towards it. Right? This is what Nokia failed to did when Android came in market. And that's why it's a history now, we say. Nokia is kind of a history for us. BlackBerry is a history for us, basically. Otherwise, I remember when I was on 5, BlackBerry was like a status symbol, very big status symbol, basically. Anybody who used to have a BlackBerry in his pocket, like he's a big businessman probably. Right? Now, it's gone, basically. Right? So if you don't follow the trend, you will be out of the market. And that's why they keep changing. For example, Zomato is bringing AR. It's not required actually. But they want to show that they are ahead of technology. They are bringing something. They are doing something for you continuously. And they want to leverage that thing in our application. When this AR, I personally do a lot of AR and VR trainings. So when this AR and AR was a big, like today's AI, if you talk about, right? At one point of time, AR and VR was like a big boom in the market. Big boom, right? So I do a lot of trainings. Even Myntra tried doing something with AR, but it was not feasible for them to do it at particular time. Because in Myntra, the problem is, if you especially talk about girls' clothing, you can't bring them to AR, to be frank. The problem is you have a lot of variety. The men's, it's a little bit easy to do it. Even Lenskart does it because specs are a little bit easy to manage. Yeah, the structure is same. But in clothing, it's very difficult to bring the AR into it that you can try on. Because the structure of clothes is very different of the fashion.
It's a very touch and feel kind of.
Also that thing, plus there's a whole technical issues in that basically to be brought. So you need to build learnability into a product and work with the mental model of the user. Don't do something very different which users cannot take it unless until you are a big company. Unless until you are a big company like Apple, kind of Apple. If you can take that step back and then recome in the market, don't do this. What Apple recently did, I tell you, those who use, sorry, I'm giving a lot of Apple example because I use both the phones. So I have Android as a dummy phone, which I use for sometimes to check the apps and all. But mostly I use in day-to-day life, I use Apple. So Apple did one more thing in iOS 15, right? Basically in the recent iOS. What they did was, how many of you use Safari on Apple? Those who use Safari on Apple. Did you notice any change in Safari between the previous iOS and the new OS? Correct. Simple thing. If you look at Safari, what they have, those who use Android, by the way, you must be using Google Chrome and all this. So what you have to do is you have to go on the top to search anything, right? What Apple did was they brought that top bar to the bottom of the screen. To the bottom of the screen. And for 1 week I was very frustrated. But eventually I got used to it. And now it is easy. So sometimes you need to force the user, but only do it if you can take that setback. If you're okay to lose customers, then you can do it. Like Apple was one of the first ones to remove the headphone jack. Of course, it's a debatable thing, but they are doing for their business also. Yes. Correct. Don't have any choice basically. But why did Apple move that search bar at the bottom instead of the top? It was doing okay on the top. This is how everybody does it. It is easier to use your phone at the one hand. If you look at any application design, when you design in Figma or whatever software you're designing or developing something, keep in mind the buttons has to be at the bottom. Because it is easy to reach by one hand. Especially phones are getting longer and longer now. They are more vertical instead of horizontal. They are more vertical. So you need to keep the buttons at the bottom. It's okay to have an empty space in between. Generally what I do is when I teach in a proper classroom session with currently we have a lot of issues of internet here, but I will tell people to log out from Zomato or log out from Swiggy and look at their onboarding experience. They will have a lot of information on the top to read, but the button will be at the bottom only, not be at the top generally. Because it is easy to use with your one hand. Mostly people don't use phone with both the hands unless gaming. If you're doing a gaming like PUBG and all, it's a different story. But you generally use an application with one hand and the bottom navigation has to be at the bottom to reach it and to make it easy. So you think about the user as a mental model and let me go back. So that's the key. Now, there are 3 things you have in the mental model. There are 5 things which, if you talk about NN group, but I talk about mostly 4 things here: affordance, signifier, mapping, and feedback. Is important for the user to look at. What is affordance? Okay, let me show you something here. This button you see of sign in, right? Can you click on it? So first of all, you can look at it. You say that you can't click on it, right? Your brain understands, you can't click on it. Why? Because of the gray color, right? Actually, that is a signifier there. But the button itself is a affordance to you. You understand that this is how a button looks like. And this is how the button is. So there are 2 things generally go together. Affordance and signifier, which I'm showing in the previous screen to you here. Right, this one. See, affordance design should suggest how an object to be used, how the object can be used, and signifier indicates the communication where the action should take place. There are 2 things which generally go together over here. Right, for example, if you look at any electric switch, from far you can tell whether it's on or off. Why? Because of its signifier. Affordance is that by looking at it, you understand it's a button. You get that feel out of it. So it is the affordance and signifier you have. Very, very important in UI to be there. Right? So the color of it, if it's green in color or any other color, you will understand, you can click on it. But it doesn't make sense to click on it unless until I fill these fields over there. Please go ahead.
What is the take on the Apple website? So they don't have a button, they have an arrow button on the input field for going. So when you log into iCloud, go online, you make your ID, and then there's a button inside the input field on the right hand which says continue, and then you log in. What is your take?
No.
iCloud.com sign in.
Let me cancel it. Okay, we're talking about this button basically, right? So basically, see, this is also a kind of a signifier or giving me feedback basically. So what happens is when you type your email ID here, it shows that this is what you will do next as a step. You need to go ahead in this step here, right? So once I enter my email ID here, adding my username here, that's not correct. So I have to click on it over here. And then the password field comes up over here. They don't show the password up front here. Then, because I tell you what they are doing, first of all here, they are trying to validate whether your username is correct or not. If it's correct, let the user put the password. Enter it. Lot of websites, if you go to especially government websites, you enter your username password, it says invalid user. Now you are completely confused. मेरा पासवर्ड गलत है, यूजर नेम गलत है, क्या गलत है?
I think Protect has done something in it. So if you write the right captcha, then it allows you to press enter.
Correct.
If it doesn't write the captcha, it doesn't allow.
Very good. Yeah, I use Kotak Mahindra Bank also. In Kotak Mahindra Bank, if you go online, if you write the right captcha, then only the button gets enabled. Otherwise, you click on the button, everything is gone. You again put your name, you again put your password, again fill the captcha, and then go next. Very small thing which can help the user, and sometimes you don't even appreciate it as a user. Tell you, you never go to tell your company, hey, you did such a good thing, right? But somewhere it's making your cognitive load lesser. I show you one more thing here. Don't read my mails, but see, this is my app. This is my Apple Mail app. And a lot of you must be using Outlook and all. If I want to write a new mail, I will click on this button actually. This is the button I click on. All of you know that you click on the button to get a new mail. Very small feature is there as an interaction design here, which was not there previously, but softwares now have it. If I click on that button, you know what will happen? Simply opens a window which all of you say, okay, nothing new in the issue. What is new in it? No, nothing new. The window simply opens. This is what happens in Outlook when you click on the new mail. New pop-up comes up. But it did a very small thing, very, very small thing to make your life a little bit easier. No. See, look at my cursor. It's already there in the to field. See, it's already flashing there. I did not click on it. Very small thing, very subtle thing. If you go many years back, when you need to click on this one, you need to take your mouse to the to field and then start typing. When I click on it with the mouse, I can straight away start typing without taking my cursor there. Very, very small thing, but it's helping you. I'll show you one more feature here. Let me clear some of my junk mails. I get a lot of junk mails. So let me go to my junk mails here. Let's say I want to delete all these mails which you see on the left hand side. Right? Now this is an example of again how the developer can help with the smallest thing, which you might not even notice. I notice it after many years of use. Oh, it's doing this also. Because as a UX designer, I keep learning from these things. So let's say I am somewhere here and I want to start deleting. I click on keep deleting this one by one. This is generally I do in my inbox. Of course, I'm not saying let's say this is my inbox. This is not my junk. Let's say this is my inbox. So I'll start clicking one by one to delete it, right? But I started somewhere in between if you look at it. I'm somewhere in between, I started clicking on the delete button. Can you tell me the direction where it's going? Each time I'm clicking. Going automatically down? Now see. I click up here and delete. Where is it going? It understood my attention, basically. Intention, where I want to go, basically. It starts to go upwards. But if I go again, or if it reach at the top, it will start going down. Or if I do again downwards, it will start going downwards from there, instead of going upwards. Very, very small thing. But somebody has thought about it and built it into the software. Look at it. If you want to do some minimalistic design, you can be innovative. I show you one more feature in Apple you have. I'm going to lock this. This is a locked screen you have. Right? If you ever use Apple, this is how you will see it. Okay. It closed my screen also. So there is an option. Basically, you can see my name there and I can log in here. Okay. Now for login, I can use a touch ID, but I'm not going to use touch ID. I'm going to just use my password if I can. I can have an option to enter the password here. It might not be visible, but at the bottom you can see it's very light, but I can enter a password. Anybody who use MacBook Pro or Mac systems, what if you type the password wrong? What will happen here? What do you think will happen? Vibrate, shake? Okay. It did this, it shaked right and left. Is it good or bad? Why good? And anybody understands no across the globe, right? When you want to say someone no, you say like this, right? This is what it's doing. So it's an example of taking a minimalistic design, but keeping in mind the universal language there, which is okay. And if you keep writing wrong password, it will eventually tell you the password is not correct. Then it will tell you, basically, it will put a text there and say that your password is not correct, will you have to recover it. But currently it's not giving that test. So it's basically an example of universal language which Apple is using over there into its system to be added. Or if you look at this buttons, basically affordance and signifier key, enable, disable. The green color which you see is what? Signifier for that it's enabled or disabled. And because of that circle, it's giving you the affordance that you can switch it between the two sides. Now, what is mapping? If you look at it here, what is mapping? So you have a steering wheel. So when in mapping, what we say is connecting two things together or multiple things together. For example, if you rotate your steering on the right hand side, what happens? It rotates your wheels, basically. Correct? That we call as mapping. You understand, and even the steering is designed in a way that it represents your wheels. If you look at it, that's how the mapping has been done to it. If you look at it, volume control here in Windows or any software, generally you get this slider there. It's again an example of mapping, because when you're using that slider, it's increasing or decreasing the volume level of your system, but at the same time showing the level also over here. So it has a signifier to it, the color. You can move it, affordance there, and the mapping has been done here. That is simply known as mapping of something, connecting few things together in it. And then you have a feedback. Imagine if you on your laptop, there is no light coming on that button and your screen is not turning on for a few seconds. You will think the button is not working. Correct? So that feedback is important. I tell you what Apple did few years back in few laptops. In this laptop, whenever you click on a button, it plays a sound. Those who know Apple will be knowing there's a very nice sound basically. Apple removed it in some versions. And people were complaining because Apple never had this light on the button. So the only signifier in the feedback in the Apple is that sound. As soon as you press the button, the sound will play back. And you know that the system is turning on. Maybe display will not come, but it will take some time to on the display, but you will hear that sound. Apple removed it. Now when the laptop has some issue of hardware, you don't know what is happening. Whether it's getting on, whether it displays an issue or what is there. But with this, you get a feedback immediately that something is happening. So giving feedback to the user immediately is very, very important, right? If you don't give the right feedback to the user at the right time, user might lose it out. So giving feedback is very, very important. That's a mental model of anything. You need to remember that. Affordance, signifier, mapping and feedback has to be there. User should receive the feedback immediately and clear information about what action has been done and what result to expect out of it, right, to be done. Otherwise, user will not be able to get what needs to be done in it. So you need to basically build feedback in it. And always remember, whenever you design something, whether you're designing a chair, car, whatever it could be, a real product, anything, you need to remember the mental model of the user. If you don't remember the mental model of the user may not be able to use your product. If you look at a lot of DIY kits nowadays coming for furniture and all, they focus a lot on this. How people can assemble the furniture very easily. But about IKEA is one of the biggest business in furniture, focuses on this. How people can assemble it easily with less tools and easy to understand, right? Otherwise, user may just opt for something else or may not be happy about your particular product. So making it easy to understand is very, very important. And there is nothing wrong in copying it. Every company nowadays copy from one to another, the similarities. A lot of similarities now with Android and iOS if you look at it. Across apps, even the OS level, there are a lot of similarities now. The settings icon, etc. They are very, very similar. What Apple has done recently is, Apple is bringing similarity between applications. For example, there's a settings app I have in Apple, which now looks something like this. Earlier, it had a completely different design, but Apple redesigned it to look like this. Why? Because iPad and iPhone settings looks like this, and here it was different. So Apple matched the mental model. There is one application which all of you use, which has a great mental model to it. How many of you use Word? Almost everyone. PowerPoint? Is there any mental model there?
Yeah, they have for navigation.
The top navigation, if you see across Excel, PowerPoint and Word, is same. Is same. Even also organized in the same order. It changes after some time when you have a different functions to it, but the order is same. Anybody who uses Adobe applications here will know it. Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, similar, right? Similar, if you look at it. For example, Figma also copied something. Figma copied Sketch. There was a Sketch app in Apple which was very popular for UI designing. They also copied a bit from there, a lot from there I would say, and bit from XD, with XD basically. So there's nothing wrong in copying and having the same mental model. So don't make the user think they are stupid, make them feel they are smart. When the user is able to use something without efforts, they think they are smart and they will be happy about something, instead of making them confused about something. So the mental model is important. Okay, so before we go ahead and talk about some basic research methods and all going forward, we'll take a break, I think here, right? And after the break, I'm gonna have a 15 minutes break. You can be back at 11:35, right? 11:35, then we will go ahead and discuss further.